Hello, everybody. Welcome to the
Hello.
Punch Up Pod with Lila and Pat. Happy Wednesday. We missed you guys. It's been a full week. How
we
are
missed
you,
you so
Pat?
much that Strike just came over and said hello. Oh, never mind. Ow. Well, Strike begrudgingly says hello and goodbye. Thanks for bleeding.
How are you? How are you? What's going on?
I am good. I'm just chugging some coffee to get some energy for the show. Coffee and beer.
Nothing better.
That's life.
That sounds like it would be kind of hard on my system.
I got a rock gut. And
yeah.
Unrelated, but since we're talking about whatever we're talking about, my boss sick again. It was just like 2 weeks ago he was sick, and now he's sick again. And this is COVID, people, and he's so convinced it's not COVID because he can smell things. Like, that's the logic we're dealing with here.
Oh my God, yeah.
I can smell and taste, so I can't have COVID. It's not COVID. Did you test? No.
But it wouldn't even matter if he tested at this point, because does anybody have an updated test for the latest strains? Have they updated any of that? All that money just went to cops.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
Seriously,
the tests
doing?
The tests aren't great, but it's something. You can trust if you get a positive, right? You can't trust a negative, but a positive is a positive.
Yeah, there's so many more false negatives, and then people have this feeling of like, I'm fine. And then, we see like the Ohio hospital system is being completely overwhelmed by influenza A cases. Flu's out of control. And I think the connection that a lot of people aren't making, it like that helps the people who are like, well, see, it's just like COVID, flu, whatever. But the reason, remember, when we all masked for a year, we completely ended a strain of flu. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Oh, I muted myself probably because or Strike did it on a drive-by. Just whap, hit my mute button. She's over here terrorizing me.
That's funny.
Yeah, look, we know that we wiped out a whole strain of the flu, which saves a shit ton of lives and sets back flu from mutating to the next level, and the next phase of the flu is not as bad, and all these things. And we're just like, let's not do that again. Let's let kids get RSV, tuberculosis,
measles,
COVID, the flu, measles, and let's elect a guy to manage the NIH that to oversee all these health organizations. It doesn't believe in science, that has brainworms, that used to be a massive drug addict, which I can forgive that part, but his brain is not right. He's not
right. But again, there is a part of me.
No, don't
that feels like that. People are going to call it out a little more. Like, people are saying like, well, this is a horrible time. And it is. It's disgusting what's happening. I think it is frightening. But like, Rachel Maddow had a whole breakdown about the bird flu, right?
Right.
As if we haven't all known since last March that this was an issue. We have Trump's from his first regime, who actually seems pretty good, but I can't remember his name. It wasn't his Surgeon General, but it was one of his, like, director of health something.
Black guy?
His name. Yeah, black guy, bald. He masks a lot.
General?
Was he the Surgeon General? Yeah, Jeremy. Anyway, but saying like, this is not a good time for no communication between the U.S. scientists and the WHO or the CDC to shut everything down. It's like, but the truth is, a lot of that stuff wasn't happening anyway. Like, when Biden said it's over and we're done with the pandemic, WHO was saying, no, we're still in a pandemic. We still need like all of that. And there was no communication really. So I'm hoping, I'm not excusing, RFK, but I'm hoping that maybe people wake up a little bit. I don't know.
That there's this evil guy in place not protecting us. The problem is, the Democrats set this up. Like, they created this environment where the next natural step is like, hey, science doesn't even exist anymore. Let's just forget about everything we learned over decades and decades of research and, and hey, they, like you said, they weren't reporting on the COVID stuff already. So if the Democrats didn't think it was that important, like maybe they realized this whole COVID thing was overrated and not, it's too much fear mongering. Maybe that's true. But Deborah, I love you, Deborah.
I put that up there just to show that I am impartial.
But you're right. I mean, the fear is, in my mind, that they take this, because libs are just like, it's all about the vaccine. So that's all they're focused on, is like, RFK is anti-vaccine, so we need to get the vaccine. So a win to liberals is like, he doesn't cut vaccine funding, but he doesn't do anything to protect us from these other 4 viruses or present.
Yeah. Honestly, there's some days where it just feels like the whole point of all of this is to overwhelm and exhaust me. Because having to and you have to start from square one every time. Like, okay, yes, you're right. It was the biggest transfer of wealth from, working class to the wealthy. But that wasn't because of the lockdowns. And the lockdowns actually were necessary. They were just handled horribly by our government. It's like each.
Right.
But
and we should have pushed for the vaccine, even though the vaccine turned out not to be sterilizing. It's just that the government shouldn't have lied to us that it was a sterilizing vaccine when they didn't know, and they were wrong. They gambled that they thought it would be, and they were wrong.
But also, by the way, the first vaccine against the strain that it dealt with, which I think we were in Delta at that point,
did help,
was highly effective.
Right.
Both from a sterilization point of view, the viral load, from contagion. And if we had kept our masks on, and if Bill Gates wasn't one of the biggest monsters in the world, and we had gotten those shots into arms all around the world, this would be a different timeline. I saw somebody, one of the anti-vaxxers saying something like, don't you think it's funny that, cancer treatments aren't free. If you break a leg, it's not free. But those vaccines, boy, they were giving those out for free. And it's like, yes, because wealthy ghouls don't think that they're going to catch your cancer or catch your broken bones. They were worried about getting COVID from you. They were taking those vaccines, but they were just so myopic that they listened to Bill Gates, and they were more concerned with patent law than getting everybody vaccinated. And they were like, well, I'm never going to go to the, global South anyway, or whatever it was. I don't even know, but it's just very frustrating. Okay.
And we've said this a million times, but this is why I get so mad at lefty shows that don't cover this stuff, obviously for our basic health, but it's
2 to 1.
If you're a socialist, communist, leftist, progressive, and you can't see the intersectionality of the economy, the working class, the frontline workers, everything, our healthcare system, if you can't leverage a pandemic to push your point in the need for society to adopt some of these policies, what the fuck are you doing other than just being a hot take factory with the podcast?
100%.
I mean, that's kind of why we started this thing. It's like, I just got sick of these hot take what are you doing? I
really quickly,
I've said it a million times.
It's 3 now. It's just not that we're keeping score. I'm just saying 3. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And, I've seen some people kind of beg off of it, who are really lefty on foreign policy, most economic policies, and even Medicare for all or whatever, but it's COVID. Oh, I just haven't done a lot of research on it. And that became this really hot button topic. And okay, you're right. There are lots of things I also have not done as much research. We almost never talk about the Congo or what's happening in Sudan, and there are, and we should. I mean, there's a lot that we don't get to, and it's not because I don't believe that it exists. It's but then when those same people are asked about making that connection between public health and the working class, and why we don't have Medicare for all, and why we were being lied to push us all back to work to get the that should at least be a connection they can acknowledge and not just say, I haven't really looked into COVID. Like, sorry. Also, you haven't looked into COVID. What the hell are you talking about? Like the whole world shut
the pandemic.
down.
We're just not that educated on the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know how that sounds, and like all that stuff you said is true, but okay, let's add another layer to it. We've got bird flu coming. We've got our government basically, they've lied to us about all this stuff that are actual threats and not conspiracy level threats. Like these are acknowledged threats that are killing people actively. Everybody's fucking sick. And you're already on to ignoring the next pandemic, because then you would have to talk about COVID and your last pandemic, and you'd have to get into all this stuff, and your viewers don't really like it because you've made them ignorant because they followed you and your advice and Jimmy Dore's advice. And it's all complicated like Israel or something. But you know what you did on Israel? You said, you know what? It's not complicated. Let's look at what our government is doing. Let's look at how people respond to it. Let's take 10 minutes to do some research, but they won't do it on COVID.
Yeah. Which shows you they're all getting funded by somebody. We are not. Those same funders have not come knocking on our doors. The ones, just because we might not get, like, I know we haven't even officially started, but we might not get to a like proper COVID section. So I did just want to say, I'm really glad that you did get Novavax. We've been reading so much about it. More studies have just come out showing that it is much more efficacious. It lasts longer, and it seems to reduce the likelihood of long COVID and the likelihood of transmission. Novavax,
and especially effective in studies for kids.
Yeah.
So, and I'm glad we persuaded you. I haven't even gotten it yet. I'm working on it, but
what?
Yeah, I know. I got to get it. I got
mine a year ago, and then I've gotten boosters. What have you been doing?
Yeah.
Anti-vax.
I've gotten COVID with my boss.
You and RFK Jr.
Well, tomorrow I'm doing a mass study, which I call driving around in the car with my boss who probably has COVID.
Oh my God. Open that window and hang your head out. Hope, thank you. We do get funded by you. Thank you. I know you guys are so awesome. Thank you. So many of you guys have done this, and you are all amazing. Thank you. What's my eyesight? Haha. And yes, Stephanie, and thank you. So many of you do. We are gonna get to that right now. And thank our wonderful pup heroes and sheroes, our members. My eyesight is just exponentially worse by the week. But it is because that writing is very small, because there are so many of you that we're fitting onto one placard. So thank you. We are incredibly grateful to all of you. Thank you.
Hear, hear.
Do we want to spin the wheel before we get to our other cheers, or what do you want to do?
Sure. Why not?
Should we just do that? We are.
When in doubt,
spin the wheel.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're probably going to say what I'm going to say now. Stealing it from you.
Say it. Steal it.
We're revamping our whole wheel and changing a couple things about our shows. We're going to make our Sunday show a little bit more different than our Wednesday show and stuff like that. Just for kicks.
It's all work in progress. But it's happening. We're having like meetings, like scheduled.
We're circling back. We're doing the democratic thing.
We're forming commissions, taking polls.
In 3 months, we're going to talk about it and make some changes. Vote in 2028 if you want the wheel gone.
I hope you're back. Okay.
Yeah, baby.
Timeline cleanse. If you've not already filled your whatever is keeping you afloat, fill it.
Right. Let's start with some office life. That seems to fit.
All right. Woo! I really like the ones I could read, but I should have put a warning on that we needed my readers for that. Yeah.
The flashes. Yeah, I agree on that one.
Those pizza parties from the multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar companies. Yeah. not exactly. Justin loved it. A lot of people felt anxiety.
All right. Then I'm going to show a short one we can all get behind.
Okay.
When I was a lad, I idled me dad wanna be, and when I grew up, so when I got old, said I'll go for bold and bought me a cyber truck. It's real and it's steel, it gives me manly feels. It costs quite a buck and it's ugly as fuck, my magic cyber wheels.
I am seeing more and more of those Cybertrucks around town, which is crazy to me.
They are truly ugly as fuck. Did you see the guy whose self-driving car ran into a pole and he was posting information on Twitter? He's like, it saved my life.
Yeah.
Like,
but it
the
veered
security
off and
system.
I couldn't even, I don't even understand how all that works. And then plus, China now has self-driving cars way cheaper than Elon's, and the ones that are more on the same, financial or whatever price tag, are like really ritzy. You've got a refrigerator, you've got different plugins, you can recline 6 feet, you've got a projector, like a screen to project things on, like.
And they're just generally way better. Like the system we need is what they've got with swappable batteries. Like, that's the move, so that you alleviate all issues with battery storage and recycling and maintenance, and you instantly have your car back charged when you just swap the battery.
Yeah.
But that's all that progress is blocked here because of our lovely capitalist system of monopolies, and whoever's closest to the government and bribes them the most gets the deal, and everybody else is shut out.
There's no competition.
And China bad now, even though Musk is sucking up to China. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to want his products that much there, but it is really
invisible beer. Sorry, I'm not grabbing beer.
Sorry, was my talking interrupting your beer garden?
Yes.
I can't forget. The collaboration, like the open source for medicine, for science, for AI, all of that makes things better and faster. But if you are if the pathology of your greed is so severe that you cannot bear the thought of sharing a penny with anybody else, then you just want to hold on to what you have and progress be damned. You're not going to invent the best AI or the best Cybertruck or whatever the hell, but you buy your way into government and you get a no bid contract. It's perfect.
Which
all right,
probably leads us into, should we just roll into Elon's shit?
Yeah, do you want to do that and then we'll cheers? Because we didn't
cheers.
But that's okay, because this is more along what we're talking about. So let's go into Elon and the GOP, and then we can maybe we'll do it at the top of our Israel.
Yeah, this show is it's one of those books where you can choose your own adventure. Do they still make those?
Exactly. I know they do video games like that, don't they?
Yeah.
What are the young kids? Hello, young people. Hello, young people.
Hello, young
yeah, he had kind of a crazy breakdown. I mean, he's an evil, awful man. So like just makes it seem like it's trivial. It's not. But like this is the mindset of the person who is taking over Oval Office pressers. He changed his name on a lark, just so funny, to Harry Bowles. A little after he said, I love real Donald Trump as much as a straight man can love another man. Then he changes his name to Harry Bowles. So funny, clever. Circumcisions at a discount, now 50% off. At this point, I'm 100% certain that the magnitude of the fraud in federal entitlements, here we go, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, welfare, disability, etc., exceeds the combined sum of every private scam you've heard by far. And then when a judge put a stay on some of their dubious, overstepping their boundaries and deciding that DOGE can take over the purse strings of Congress and decide that allocated money that was voted on, whatever you think about our Congress, but democratically amongst Congress, that they don't want it to be spent that way. And so they just tried to stop, the Department of Education, USAID, like all of these different groups that they're trying to stop and shut down. So for one of them, a judge put a few of them, but and now what both Elon and JD Vance are saying is that it's a coup. It's a judicial coup to rule on the Constitution.
And the coup is trying to do it all in the first place. Clearly, like it's so clearly illegal. Yeah. All these moves are illegal, without a doubt. Congress approves all spending. That is law. Like it's written in the Constitution from the jump. This is Congress's role. Yep. All the legislative branches are checks on each other. And we hear from this guy who's performing a coup, this unelected guy who's literally in the fucking White House giving a press conference. He spoke more at the press conference than Trump did.
Yeah, that was crazy with his little kid there, X, who right after Trump says he has a very high IQ.
His kid named X, sorry.
Right. Yeah. Right. So Trump says he's so smart. The high IQ X, he's like 2. He spends the whole time picking his nose, eating his boogers, and says 2 different things to Trump. One is, "You're not the real president, get out of there," and something about "go fuck yourself."
Okay, were those real? Do we know that? I don't know if they're real, but
I did see Trump give him a look at one point. Yes, the nose picking, but also when he was like saying something that matched up to the guy who was saying that he said, "You're not the real president." Which, it wouldn't surprise me if he heard that from his dad, right?
Look, if it's all AI and it's all deep fakes, we can blame Elon for that anyway. So fuck him.
Yeah. So do you want to watch a little bit of that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched half of it, I think, live.
I'm going to get there. It's just taken me a long time. Where did I put it? I guess, did you erase my
no, I didn't erase it.
All right.
StreamYard.
No idea where that is. That's really too bad. But okay, so we do have graphics, but I do need to put my glasses on because I can't see anything. Let's just go quickly through a couple of things happening under the Trump administration. Let's see here. We got some polls that just came out. His focus on lowering prices, which is one of the biggest things that he ran on, not enough, 66%. We also have some polls on Israel, but we can get to those when we get to the Israel part. Some of the things.
Who is saying he's lowering prices too much? Like, how is that even a thing? Like, how he has had no effect on prices. Other than raising them out of the fear of tariffs and all this bullshit. So prices are all going up, but
prices are all going to go up, and deporting people isn't going to lower prices.
Oh,
so
clothing,
what's going to happen?
Food, everything is going to skyrocket.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And the things that he could be doing are, if you can't lower prices by shaming the CEOs, which of course he's never going to do, but he could do something like that. He could really use his bully pulpit for something that he never would, but that would be one thing. He could talk about raising wages and lowering housing costs and Medicare for all. Like, those are things that would make people feel like, okay, so eggs are $12, but I make $35 an hour, right? Then still sucks, but okay. But of course, that's not what's happening. So what is going to happen?
Yeah, well, oops, that was the wrong one. I meant to point out Kiko's comment.
Yep.
If you're auditing the budget and you ignore the Pentagon, which is they just burn billions like it's nothing.
Yep.
And you're not going after the Pentagon budget. Nothing about money in politics. Not a single thing about getting that funding away, because the system won't allow him to do that. And he doesn't want to, because he's benefiting from it.
Of course, he just got a $400 million or billion, got to be $1 million contract for his you know,
well, Musk, yeah,
his war machine. Also, you know, Tesla paid no federal income taxes in the past, 3 years, reporting $2 billion income last year, no federal income taxes. And not only is he not going to do a true audit, because I mean, I think a lot of us would be fine with that, right? You look at something like USAID, which is, it does some good work, which I think is mostly like when billionaires do philanthropy. It's a way of sort of whitewashing the other things that they do, which are a lot of regime change operations and stirring unrest in nations where you know, we either want to steal their resources or they don't want to share their resources or whatever it is. We're worried they're too close with Russia or China. But yeah, he's not going to look into what they are wasting their money on at USAID. But in the meantime, there are people who actually, like, there are hotlines for USAID. If you're abroad and anything happens, all of that's been shut down. Also, there's $500 million worth of food because they do some of these philanthropic things, again, as a cover for their,
of course,
but like, and that's just rotting in warehouses. That guy gets fired, who shows that happened, the one who's showing the result of these closures. Yeah.
But those programs that are not enough and they are whitewashing, like we're talking billions of dollars that actually affect real people who benefit from those programs. So you can look at USAID and say it's corrupt and needs to be fixed, and that's fine. I'm going to agree with you. But you don't send a billionaire in there with utterly self-interested motives to cut this program. And most of our goodwill in the country that's left comes from these programs.
Right, exactly.
Like we're hanging on to this, like, you know, like
it's our one little piece of soft power, right? China's
taking that space up exponentially more than we are right now.
Yeah. And at the same time, as you know, we all know, there are so many conflicts of interest, and Trump is saying we're just going to trust him to remove himself if he can't be dispassionate about it. So there's no oversight, there's no transparency. Of course, the first thing they're going to go for is what Republicans and many Democrats have been going after for decades now, which are, you know, Medicare, Medicaid, entitlements, which we are entitled to. We earn those, but also, even if we didn't, they are life-saving social safety net programs that they also want to totally gut. So like, it's always, what can they do to the poorest people, and not, wow, I made $2 billion. My company made $2 billion just at one of his companies, and we paid no federal income taxes on that. They're not going to touch that.
But they are going after Medicare and SNAP. So $880 million.
Billion. Yeah.
I mean, $1 billion, and cutting SNAP by 20%.
And I mean, that 880 billion, I think, is almost the full allocated amount for Medicaid. I mean, they just want to get rid of it all and privatize everything. That's the whole bipartisan effort. I mean, remember, in 2012, Obama was floating cutting Social Security and Medicaid. And Medicare was like the privatization thing. And that's when Bernie said he was going to primary him in 2012. So this has been both parties for a long time.
And you know, it's both parties, because what's going to happen is Democrats are going to call it a win when Medicare gets cut by $200 billion.
Right.
When SNAP gets cut by 10%, they're going to say, you know what, we did that, elect us, and this 10% cut won't happen under Democrats. You know, that's the plan. They love this. This is a sweetheart situation. They can fundraise for the next 4 years, do nothing, which they came out in public and said, well, we don't have the House, Congress, Senate. You know, it's you guys' fault. You guys put us here with no power, not us for not supporting any policies you support. It's you guys just for not voting for, 95% Republican policies instead of 100. You voted for 100%. We were 95%. You're bad.
Yeah.
The genocide.
They're not going to talk about that at all. Yeah. I mean, the whole project of Republicans for my whole life has been starve the government, give tax cuts to the rich, and then complain about, you see, the government never works, right? That was Ronald Reagan's big statement. You know, what's the worst thing to hear? We're from the government and we're here to help you. Ha ha ha, that's so funny. What's the government supposed to be? Because all they seem to think it is, again, bipartisan, is insider knowledge for insider trading, tax cuts, the SALT tax. Like, I mean, they are all about using their office just to enrich themselves and their friends. I mean, that's all they think of government as. It can actually protect and help its people. Because otherwise, why are we all paying taxes?
It could do that for a tenth of the money, you know,
yeah.
Which is what makes a space for a guy like Elon to come in and go, look at how inefficient they are.
Yeah.
But you can't efficiency your way through an $800 billion cut to people who need it. Like, that's not happening. That's just a brazen handover of wealth from our tax dollars or money the government can distribute, even if it's not our actual tax dollars, to companies like Musk, to
the military, industrial. It's all going to go for war and tax cuts.
And Democrats are so stupid. They are telegraphing that what we're looking at is a war between billionaires. So Democrats are going to pick their billionaires. They're going to say, you know, you guys were cut out of Trump's scheme, so you got to go with us and fund that money, put it into our local races, give it to all of our guys, and we'll get you some shit too.
I mean, that is the tactic.
None of that is affecting middle-class people. None of it is helping. Like, the billionaires on the left are not altruists. They're billionaires.
Yeah.
Self-interested billionaires.
100%. Let's just, you know, again, we found out last week that Trump fired the head of the TSA, the Coast Guard, and he gutted key aviation safety advisory committees, a key safety committee. This week alone, we've had, that I know of, there have been 2 crashes. This one was in Arizona. Let's see. This was, what day was this? On February 10th, on Monday, 2 planes crashed on the runway at Scottsdale Airport. At least 1 person died after an aircraft crash on the runway. And 3 other people on board the plane have been taken to the hospital. Then I think this was today, a military aircraft crashes into the San Diego Bay. I mean, you know, there are some things that you cannot run efficiently. Like, efficiently means spending money. You spend money on healthcare. By the way, Medicare for all would be cheaper. Sorry.
You're on timeout, Lila.
Wow. Medicare for all would be cheaper, but it wouldn't pad the pockets of all the health insurance industry people. But also, just like the post office, like public education, you know, those are things that healthcare, that you invest, infrastructure, you invested in, because those have long-term returns on your investment, right?
Yeah.
And this kind of thinking is just so evil.
The strange thing, and this is why I've turned to listening to right-wing radio, is I want to understand instead of NPR, which is right-wing radio, sort of. It's lib radio. But I want to understand how they're selling all this stuff to their Republican base, because they're going to be massively impacted by all these policies. The red states rely a lot more than blue states on a lot of these social services. And even that doesn't mean I'm cheering for them to suffer. No, I'm just saying there's going to be blowback because they need this stuff, you know, and you can't just take $880 billion away from Medicaid and not have a consequence. So, you know, the right is pushing a lot of this stuff on the radio about, well, good, if we have to suffer, you know, to get Mexican people to deport people and make it safe for our kids, and they're hanging on to every little bit of racism. It's all shallowly veiled, but it's like every word that comes out of these right-wing radio station hosts is basically playing into the racism part of it, playing into the xenophobic part of it, playing into all that. It's not like, it's like, you know, even if you have to suffer for the next 5 years and eggs cost $25, well, at least the Mexicans aren't taking your jobs, you know, kind of thing. Like but how long that can last, I can't survive 4 years.
No, it's not. And I mean, obviously Trump isn't running again, but I wonder if there will be any pushback from the America First MAGA part of the crowd that seems to have been pushed aside, apart from like the droplets of racism that are thrown out at them, you know, like crumbs to keep them frenzied. This is all just about his billionaire AI posse, right?
Right. But this is where, you know, I mean, I understand we don't really want to, I mean, a shutdown is not good for society, right? You know, a government, because so many people are impacted by it, but you only have so many cards to play.
Yeah.
And you need to point out the harms caused by all these cuts. And how can you do that? You need to put it on him saying, I refuse to fund a cut like this that impacts 40 million Americans or
100%.
Whatever the real number is.
That's right.
And they're not willing to do that. They're already like, yeah, we're going to sign whatever he wants.
Announced that.
You know?
Well, okay, let's just stay on them and then we'll go to the Democratic response, which is horrific. I don't know if you saw this. There is a list of egg replacers. This is so crazy. Vinegar and baking soda was one of the suggestions. Like, I understand tofu, banana, yogurt. Like, I mean, it's not exactly, but I understand that. But like, when you're getting to baking soda and vinegar to replace an egg, you know, this.
And it's so transparent that they're not going to talk about the health crisis here. Like, they're telling people how to get rid of eggs in your life. And why are we short of eggs?
Yeah.
What is the cause of that? It's fucking bird flu that's jumping species to species, killing people everywhere already. Humans dying everywhere already.
Yeah. So that's happening. And I do think that, this is just like, so that we have a few light moments in the middle of the horrors. This was Senator Kennedy talking about the price of eggs and how this might all fall out for Trump's base.
Let me try to put all this in context for you. I like omelets. I mean, I really like omelets. I could eat an omelet at every meal. I like omelets better than sex. Not really, but you get the point. I like omelets. You can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. Now, President Trump ran for office saying, I'm going to review every single penny in the federal budget. Now, how are you going to review the spending in the federal budget without reviewing the spending? And that's what Mr. Musk is doing. To my friends who are upset, I would say with respect, you know, call somebody who cares. They better get used to this. It's USAID today. It's going to be Department of Education tomorrow.
So there it is. I mean, they're trying to tie in the price of eggs to economic policy and not the fucking next pandemic.
Yep.
What the fuck are we doing?
Yeah. Well, because also, I mean, the price of eggs rose even before.
Transportation and
because of the shutdown and because of corporate greed, right? They used the lockdowns, the whatever it was, 2-month lockdowns, and then also the supply not coming in from China and the fact that we don't manufacture anything here to spike prices, make even more money because most of them got loans from the government that then were totally forgiven. Unlike student loans, billionaires are getting loans, right? Tom Brady got like a $20 million loan to keep people employed, his entourage. But then when everybody was allowed back to work and when we started manufacturing some stuff here and when things sort of like calmed a little bit, those prices never went back down. And so that was already a thing. And then, yes, of course, the fact that, and now we're getting rid of what is the FDA. Are we like, I'm not sure how this whole MAHA movement, the Make America Healthy Again, RFK, and just, I can't remember what our wager was, but I was right.
What? No.
Tulsi and
What are we talking
RFK.
about?
I said Tulsi and RFK would be confirmed.
Oh, yeah.
And I was right about Trump. I don't know, Pat. That's like 0 for 3 for you. I feel like I need to exact some kind of punishment, or you're going to keep getting things wrong.
I want to take the Trump thing off the table, but okay. I did think that they were leveraging. Look, I made the fatal mistake of thinking. I thought they would hand the Democrats a little win, but the Democrats, I underestimated their fecklessness, which I didn't think I could do at this point in my life. I guess I'm an optimist, and I thought they'd be hanging one of these people out to dry because they really wanted Tulsi. I thought RFK would go down because they really wanted Tulsi and would let them hang their hat on the vaccine stuff. And they really wanted Tulsi because she is sold out, not because she's
Tootin' puppet.
Yeah, not that. They know she's bought. They've seen her flip her positions a million times, and they own her.
Yeah.
Which is why all the
not anti-war. She's totally fine with all of that.
Yes.
Anyway. All right.
Did I distract enough from me being wrong 3 times?
No, I feel like that was a really long time spent on all the reasons that you were incorrect instead of like usually when somebody gets something right, you go to that person. You're like, you got it right, Lila. How did you arrive at that?
What do you got?
Okay, so there's not a whole lot more to talk about with what's happening with the GOP apart from they are evil and well, this is funny to me. China's plan is just to sit back, and this was like an Onion article headline from 10 years ago, but it's true and being reported just this past week in Foreign Affairs that Beijing assumes that Washington's own policies will dismantle the foundations of U.S. global hegemony, even if it creates a lot of turbulence in the process. China's top priority then is simply to weather the storm. Smart move.
Why would you want to jump in? We are imploding, and we're going to listen every day to Republicans come on TV and say, well, yeah, gas is up and eggs are expensive and you don't have health care. But the Mexicans,
that's the price you have to pay
more or less, simplifying it. But like that's what we're going to hear for as long as they can fucking get away with it.
I don't know how long that's going to be. I'm really curious to see because the people in control right now are moving quickly. And at first, I think there was a group of supporters who were excited by that, and I think there is something that still feels good about somebody like taking action and doing things. But as these things keep happening and they're still working 3 jobs. They still can't really afford rent is more than mortgage. They can't afford eggs. Like, I think there is going to be some trouble. And, when Trump was interviewed right before the Super Bowl, the one that Biden went to, the softball interview, this one was with Fox. And the guy, I can't remember his name, the Fox guy, asked Trump if Vance was his successor. And he said, no, I don't see him like that. I mean, there's a lot of talented people. He's good too. Like, he has no qualms. He doesn't care about the party. He was never a Republican. It's all transactional. He just wants more money. So yeah, there's that. And then the Danish are trying to start a petition to buy California, telling us that we would get free healthcare. So
I'm all for that. Look, they have one of the highest rated happiness meters when they interview people.
100%.
Before we get off of Musk, they were just talking about whoever the congressperson you were showing, I forget his name. Kennedy was saying Department of Education is next, and he wasn't lying.
Yep.
DOGE, unvoted on by Congress, is cutting $900 million of funding from the Department of Education just to start. And they're bragging about this shit. They are bragging about it.
And again, sorry, but bipartisan effort to defund public education. All that waiting for Superman and the charter schools, that was Obama. And Bill Gates privatizing education.
And just go back to Betsy DeVos, right? Betsy DeVos, you think, oh, that's part of a Trump thing. She wanted to privatize things, so she put all this money into the Republican Party. No, she put all her money into the Democratic Party first. Cory Booker, owned by Betsy DeVos, 100% owned by Betsy DeVos.
Yeah.
all the efforts on the left to pretend to be against privatization, and they're all taking this money. Not all, but a lot of them are taking this money, and they keep the narrative going. Guys like Booker of like, well, there are some ways we could do this that makes sense, and you know,
school
they blur the
choice,
lines.
and people need vouchers, and it's defunding.
Yeah, it's
public
just
education.
sellout shit. It's just sellout. It's a corporate. The Democrats are just as bought. We all know that.
They are just as bought. Before we move on to them and spin the wheel, are there any other videos you wanted to show from it, or any other graphics before we move on?
This one I think this one shows you, as it relates to Elon Musk, how Democrats are handling it publicly, and this is the cool thing about being a Democrat.
I want to hear why, but do you think that calling Elon Musk a dick is effective messaging for confronting what is a potentially irreversible transformation of the U.S. government?
Well, he is a dick.
Look at that.
We're going to get into Democrats, but
Congressman Robert Garcia fighting hard for all of us.
They're just leaning into, we're not woke to either. We're not woke. Look, I called him a dick. I'm just as cool as Beto when he was standing on tables and dropping the F-bomb on TV. We're just like you. Fetterman's our hero. He wears fucking hoodie and sweats, man. That guy doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't give a fuck. He's so cool. That's
yeah. I mean, yeah, we're about to get to it.
And she queued him up to she queued him up like, here, talk about policy. Talk about how being a dick isn't enough.
Yeah. So I do think, it's an inflection point, right? Because MAGA crowd is not going to get what they signed up for. Like, after the racism, there's no more America First coming for them. Like, not education, not health, war. We're still going with all the wars, right? Like, they're going to start feeling betrayed. There's only so much, I think, that they're going to be able to, like, you know, calm themselves by being shitty to people who have a different skin color or who weren't born on American soil. But then also, I think Democrats, even some, I mean, it's kind of interesting to me that what's her name, Brianna, somebody even asked that, because even though, yes, they have spent the last 8 years talking about Trump as an existential, you know, crisis or threat to democracy, they've kind of gone along with it anyway. But I do think that there is a part of some of these corporate media types, I think they're having a hard time reconciling some of it also. Because I think they really believe that. I think they believe that he was a Putin puppet. I think they believe that he wasn't, you know, actually voted in as, you know, president.
I
think this is going to be a weird space for them to have to keep doing what their corporate owners want them to do.
I think there's a mix. I mean, that's part of it. You know, you'll see some people breaking out and just being a little bold because they're like, what the fuck? You know, like Jake Tapper every once in a while is sort of progressive, you know, like, but I think it's also like the fact that the Democrats are so feckless. So it's like a high five point, boom, CNN, you called the Democrats feckless.
Right.
You know,
and
like
also
it's a little bit of that, which also helps the corporate interests behind it all, because
see, we really are impartial. Yeah.
If you're pretending, if you're doing the Globetrotters thing and pretending this is two sides and you're fighting, you get to call out the other side. Hey, you guys got to go for layups. There were layups there. You know?
Yeah. And it is a little weird. Like, when the Washington Generals just sit down and do nothing, that's never happened, right? They at least pretend to put up a fight. Before we spin, I did just want to, Hope sent this to us. This is a picket Tesla on Saturday, February 15th at all Tesla dealerships everywhere. You know, I feel like anytime we can do something like this, a concerted effort, anytime that we can organize anything to show displeasure, you know, better than not. So
and
picket,
to me,
make them feel
direct action against a business that has profit motives involved in it.
Yeah,
you're not going to hurt Tesla enough to make him care because he has all these government contracts. That's the unfortunate part. Like the car thing is just sort of a side thing, just like Twitter's a side thing. That's how fucking rich this guy is. Yeah. He's giving speeches from the fucking Oval Office. How much more do people need to see to realize this is a...
And also just think of like the payoff. He gave $250 million to Donald Trump to be the co-president. And just this week, he's getting a $400 million return on investment. So that's a good deal, actually. It's a very good deal for him. Okay, here we go. Oh, what did I just do there?
Whatever. We'll be over there.
It all up. Okay.
Yeah, baby.
All right, I don't know if you noticed, I did just give myself a refill. So everybody, take care of yourselves tonight. Don't wait for it to land on the happy juice or the happy weed or whatever. Just keep it going. Make yourself find your joy. Okay, what are you gonna put on there?
I think I'm going with dogs. I'm feeling dogs this week because my cat peed on me today. So
again.
Well, peed on my couch, not me. But
oh my God.
I sat on it, so she's got to go. Those little bastards are so cute, but goddamn, you're gonna regret training your dog to howl. That's my one thing with dogs. I love dogs so much, but like the noise factor of dogs that don't learn to stop barking.
The barking. My dog howls like that. She announces when we come home. Zainab, thank you so much. Cheers to you. The poor Trump voters who just voted for the economy will turn. Liberals will liberal. And the class war will come to the forefront. I do think that's true. I hope we all survive. And thank you. Cheers. Okay, let's so a few things happened that were really interesting. Trump fired one of the members of the board of the NLRB. And because he did that, they no longer have enough members to certify union victories. So Whole Foods, owned by Amazon, Jeff Bezos, is asking the NLRB to set aside a recent election where Philly workers voted to unionize because the board doesn't have enough members because Trump fired an NLRB member. So the NLRB, which was one of the only good parts of the last administration, has been completely neutered. And now, even though last year they were fighting against SpaceX and Elon Musk started a whole thing about how the NLRB is unconstitutional, which is ridiculous. But they were coming after him for labor violations. And now they say they will no longer fight in court against the charges that the NLRB shouldn't exist. So this is what's happening is because Elon has so much money, he can threaten to primary any candidate. I think that's why probably, even though there would have been more Republicans to go against RFK and Hegseth, Tulsi, a few of these nominations, when you have the richest man in the world, who's now like the most powerful person in the world, threatening to primary you, get rid of you, who knows what kind of, secrets they have on people. I mean, I don't know, with all this data mining, and we know what Jeffrey Epstein, taping everybody. And I'm sure there are many outfits doing those sorts of things. He's basically threatening anybody who gets in his way. So you now have an NLRB who's saying, we're not going to fight you.
And all this, as much as I think Musk is kind of an idiot, he's very calculating in all this. Like, he has cozied up to power. He recognized early on, oh, I'd be gay for you, Trump. That kind of stuff is going to play really well with Trump.
Yeah.
And so people waiting for this implosion between, not implosion, but they're both benefiting. It's not going to happen. It may happen eventually, but our economy is getting fleeced in the next 2-3 months to such a severe level that whatever happens down the road, Elon got rich off of this shit.
Yep.
It's undoubtable. And what I think is happening is, we're getting bullied as a country by a billionaire.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
I mean, it's just in focus now because it's been happening obviously for quite a while, but now it's so clear, right?
But it goes hand in hand with him controlling the media with Twitter as well, because what do bullies like? They like calling you gay. They like calling you, the R-bomb.
Right.
That's the thing. And that's the permission he gave everybody. And that's why he does these little Nazi things. That's why he changes his name to Harry Balls, because they're using high school bullying shit to appeal to people who just fucking hate the government.
Yeah. So I wonder how much it's worth it to own the libs versus to fight for housing and healthcare.
Yeah, but that's why also what I say, I listen to right-wing radio, that the framing I got directly was it's the jocks and the nerds teaming up together to fix the country.
Yeah.
So that's like the people they're so cool, they're going to drop the R-bomb. It's like they're struggling for framing this, but they're going to keep pivoting to new things to justify how bad things are for all their base.
Well, also because, and now we'll get to the Democratic response, but there is no other plan, right? So you see Trump and Elon doing things, moving quickly, breaking eggs to make omelets or whatever his, sex and egg metaphor was. And it feels like at least they are vibrant, they're working, they're doing something. It hasn't happened yet, but come on, it's the richest man in the world who, he has a space program, he has his EVs, he owns, he's a smart guy, he knows what he's doing. Sometimes it takes a while. I think you're right. There's going to be a lot of, it's like that sunk cost fallacy, right? We're already in this boat, we've hitched our wagons, let's give it some time and it's going to work out.
Yeah. Well, and that is the exact
plan. Yeah.
That is the exact message right-wing radio is pushing hardest, is that we elected him to do this. Let Elon go do his thing.
Right. Which is not actually what people elected Trump to do. Right. Nobody elected Elon. And I don't think that people thought that, well, we're going to get into the Israel part, but that possibly we would have American troops stationed in Gaza for another, Afghanistan, basically, where a 20-year fiasco where, you've got people on the ground who are indigenous to that country who don't want occupiers stealing their land and killing them. Right. So I've seen a few right-wingers on Twitter with big account people who are like, this isn't really what we signed up for. This doesn't feel like America first. I do think that is going to happen. But okay, so for the Democrats, what is the plan? And, you and I have talked about this forever, but you can't keep talking about the Republicans and Heritage having a Project 2025 when you've got nothing. What is your project? Nothing. And people want Democrats to fight. Yeah.
Well, you got two basic leaders of the Democratic Party right now. You got Hakeem Jeffries and you've got Schumer. I don't know who else.
Prepare to be inspired, folks.
Who else? I mean, name a third person you could say.
The Club? Amy Klobuchar?
Oh, God.
I'm joking.
Good God. Should we start with the Club? Let's start with the Club and come back. We'll circle back.
We'll circle back. Saki.
If the courts make a ruling and the administration decides to run over the courts, what then? What can Congress do? You say it's our job in Congress to stand up to it.
there's two major functions here. One is the oversight of what they're doing, right? And one of the things that we haven't even talked about is that our Republican colleagues have been acquiescing in all of this. I know this. I've seen a few of them stand up from time to time. Maybe they'll stand up to cancer trials being cut. Watch for it. Maybe they'll stand up to Kash Patel, which they sure better do, as this man who has shown no regard for the truth is about to become head of the FBI unless they stand up for it. But they have to stand up to make this really work. Then you have oversight, and you can also pass legislation to make very clear what the limits are on this power. But that being said, I still believe the courts have power.
So the Democratic plan is some Republican has got to stand up to him.
Someone's going to say, don't pull that kid off of the life-saving machine.
Yeah.
Somebody on the right is going to do that. Yeah, that'll
Where
do it.
are
That'll
all those good Republicans we've always heard so much about? All right, so that's the club. We're just waiting for a good Republican. Do you want to go to?
Yeah, but meanwhile, while they're waiting for a good Republican, the future of the Democratic Party is John Fetterman.
He's kind of. I mean, I don't think any of them are good, but any of them are good. But I mean, that's your good Republican right there. Yeah. He's going to switch.
So to Jeffries, who is the leader of the Democratic Party,
the House,
more or less, like.
I mean, Schumer of the House,
but Schumer is way less vocal. It's like they want a young face on all this stuff. Right. And once in a while, Jeffries sounds like he has some balls, but it's bullshit. And here's Jeffries before and after.
All be for the wrong thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Here's Jeffries within 2 weeks.
We are going to fight it legislatively. We are going to fight it
1 week
in the courts. And we're going to fight it in the streets.
But I'm trying to figure out what leverage we actually have. What leverage do we have? Republicans have repeatedly lectured America. They control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. It's their government. What leverage do we have?
The mind boggles. I mean, that's revolting. What a revolting response on 8 different levels. What leverage do you have? Somehow there's always like the Tea Party or a couple standalone. I don't know. How did Manchin and Sinema have leverage when they were fighting against their own party and their party was in the majority? They still managed to scrap everything. Like, it's such bullshit. I know we all know that, but like, it's embarrassing that he would even say that out loud.
They have power still. I mean, you could just. Like I said, you have to make an issue of all the cuts and what they are going to harm people and directly tie that to his base.
Yep.
Your base has known that we need Medicare and Medicaid and SNAP and social service programs, but they've ignored that themselves. So they're not going to make the argument they should be making right now, which is look at all the people affected by this in Republican states. Your guy right here is not investigating the Pentagon. That should be the number one thing. If I was a Democrat, I'd be out there saying, if you want to investigate the Pentagon, like if you want to catch fraud, like
they haven't
the right is run on this
audit in 6 years.
And then like I said, you're not making the connection to corruption in government.
Right.
So you're this cleaning things up and, we elected you for it. Call them out. Say, we elected you to clean up the government. Let's get some money out of politics. Everybody agrees money in politics is a problem. What's your legislation on that?
I know we all know the reason. It's because they're on the same side and paid by the same people. But you would think that there would be a little bit of, again, like play your part. Your part is to be the party of opposition. So at least give it a good show. This was Democrats showing up to the Department of Education and how they responded when they were being kept out of a building, when Trump and Elon, DOGE, are trying to do something illegal that goes against the Constitution because money has already been appropriated by Congress. But that, and then we'll see how politicians of the opposition party in South Korea handled a similar situation of a fascist takeover of government.
He's not a federal employee. He's not a federal employee.
Excuse me.
Are you prepared to stand here all night if we decide to stay?
I guess, yeah.
All right, well, you just stay right there then. You just stay and stand.
Why are you letting us go to that desk like we were able to do last year?
No, he's not. He's not a U.S. employee.
This is a public institution. Did Elon Musk hire you?
Who do you work for?
Who do you work for? Are you not aware? Are you even? Who do you work for?
I'm a federal employee working for the education.
라고 얘기를 했고, 자, 그리고 국민들을 향해서 국회를 지켜달라고도 호소를 했습니다.
Party of opposition climbing the wall, climbing barricades to get into the parliament.
윤 대통령 더 이상 대통령이 아니다라고 선언을 했고, 국민들을 향해서 국회로 모여달라고 호소를 하고 있습니다. 자, 민주당 의원들이 지금 전원 국회로 지금 들어오고 있는 그런 상황이고요. 우원식 의장도 지금 이동을 하고 있고, 자, 한동훈.
I mean, that's what you do when something matters. You stop at nothing. You don't just say, we'll see you in 2028, when I thought we weren't even going to have elections if Trump became president. What are you waiting for 2028? Yeah. Elections are over.
Test their authority. Get past the rent-a-cop in the front gate and see if they're going to put some military arms on you. Not Maxine Waters saying,
yeah.
Maxine Waters saying, oh, you're going to stand there all night? Well, we'll see if you stand there all night. Like, what? You're going to just stand there and wait till he goes to sleep at night? Like they wouldn't put another rent-a-cop out there?
And what's the plan?
Like this guy with this guy who is not a fucking U.S. senator?
There's
like you are a U.S. senator.
I know.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
And again, I know we all know it's because they're all on the same side, but put on the show, like put the show on. You know that you're not going to get beaten up that badly, right? And like also, a few people wrote, because we've all been posting about this for the last several days. It's so infuriating. And the blue MAGA crowd who still is like, well, what are Democrats supposed to do? And obviously you just don't understand about, well, there are a few things you do. You absolutely try to shut down the government. You don't work with Republicans on anything. You don't vote for any of their nominees. You use the bully pulpit. You don't go like a feeble, pathetic, whiny little, sorry, but it doesn't help that half of Congress is like over 70 and hips are breaking and people are having moments where like they just become comatose for a full minute. I can't even remember who the congressperson was this week, just standing there in the middle of a talk and completely zones out. They're on canes, they're breaking hips, does not exactly project an image of strength. So at least if you're going to play the part, go to central casting. Like, let's zip it up a little bit here.
And they put that out like that was a confrontation. Like Democrats wanted that showdown. Like, here we are, the guy with the Band-Aid, the white supremacist looking guy. And I don't know if he is at all. I don't know anything about him. With the Band-Aid on his neck. He's saying, I'm going to just stand here all night, lady.
Yeah, you got me. And then the other thing, Democrats spent the last year and actually Biden came in criminalizing protest, criminalizing anti-capitalist, people who were, even like vegetarians, climate people who were, fighting against climate change. Those were considered domestic violent extremists at a higher level even than white supremacists. That was Biden. And then the last full year, they have been criminalizing kids protesting a genocide and saying that they're terrorists or they're, useful idiots for Iran or Hamas, terrorism, that they're, that they're basically like Nazis. I mean, they're going to be deported now because they've set that up for Trump to label all these people as criminals. But now that whole inside outside strategy that has worked well for the civil rights movement. It worked well for FDR, right? Like they can't do that anymore because which protesters, which activists, which organizers are ever going to partner with the Democratic Party who just criminalized them, giving more money to cops than even Trump, building cop cities all over the country to handle protesters. you've lost that. Like, you don't have an outside strategy.
Democrats funded all the cop cities they're going to be used against Maxine Waters trying to get into a fucking building. I mean, not to, like, that's all show, but like, they funded every piece of protest that they allegedly need right now to be in the streets fighting this fascism.
Yep.
They handed it all to Trump, and they're all trained. You know, a lot of them are trained by Israeli police officers, and they're implementing all the ways to hold the population down that Israel has learned, these brilliant lessons, which are basically torture, shoot in the leg, you know, make examples of people, use acts of force that the police department isn't even allowed to do, but the, you know, cop cities are enabling all this stuff. So there's no opposition because you didn't want an opposition, and you gave the executive and all these people all this power. You used none of it yourself. You told your whole voting base, we have no fucking power. And now you have no opposition to all the power we're seeing this guy obviously has.
Yep.
He's using it right in front of us every fucking day.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the game has been given away, but I don't know where we go from here, because it really is going to have to be a working class movement. Nothing's going to happen from any of these politicians.
Right. And
it's also been bipartisan to deflate union organizing. And now it's even worse.
The problem is, and this is why we have to get more active and more violent and more whatever, you know.
Yeah.
The country is going to fall apart. Support for Republicans is going to tank. And then you get a Democrat next time, which is good enough for all these people in power. It's not about restoring these programs. It's not about, any of it. It's just, they're going to win in 2028. Maybe they're so bad they don't still, which is even fucking atrocious, more atrocious. But that's all they care about. That's it. These craven fucking rich people running our country, the elites, they don't care about what's happening, or they would take action. They're not affected. Maxine Waters, if she charged that building and got knocked down, she's going to be hurt. That's going to affect her. You know, that's what could affect her. Walking into that building could affect her, not actually fighting. Like policy wise, she's safe from every single thing that could happen in this country.
Oh yeah. And I mean, most Dem voters are that way, right? Like, they hate Trump, they hate him. But when you point out, like, well, why do you hate him? It's always like a mean tweet. But what about the policy that, if you don't like that policy, actually Biden was even worse. Biden even funded it more. It doesn't, like, because nothing affects them. It's all just what they hear from corporate media. So getting through to them is really difficult. But until they understand that,
But so we're on the path for the next 4 years of Democrats coming in and just enabling the same shit that's happening. It's just a little less worse.
Yeah.
A little less bad.
That's what happens every time.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's already built into this thing. They don't have to change anything policy wise because it's also bad under this guy, which is just ratcheting us right, as we all know.
Well, and so Schumer's already said, there's no shutdown fight. Jeffries has said, we're not withholding votes. Also, it's been leaked to Axios, did a piece that the DNC is pissed at these really sort of tame liberal groups like Move On and whatever these PACs are. What is the other one that they mentioned? Oh, Indivisible. Mad at them for saying that people our representatives should fight. And the response is, tell the people who are upset to call the Republicans. They're the ones who are in power. Why are you mad at us? That's the Democratic response.
It's like some toddler, it's like some high school shit where you didn't vote for me for prom.
Enjoy it.
And
meanwhile, Jeffries, when the whole thing was based on basically the economy, it seems like that's why people who voted for Trump, and why Kamala did not get as much Democratic support as she should have is Gaza, right? Like, those are the two probably biggest issues, right? Nobody wants billionaires. Billionaires are evil. We all know they're evil. What's Jeffries doing? He is going to Silicon Valley to try to get those billionaires back, because the billionaires are upset that all Democrats wanted to talk about was Lena Khan and giving away our money, and we're going to be taxed too much. And now all the billionaires who went with Trump are going to get filthy rich, and we're only going to be, a 300 billionaire. And that's so Jeffries is now going after billionaires.
Our entire economy and the elections are just billionaires versus billionaires. It's
meanwhile, and I will say, like, where was Bernie for 4 years? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but, oligarchy tour.
Yeah, I mean, he's 83 years old, and he's going to places that voted Biden in 20, but voted Trump in 2024 to have town halls to talk to people. I'm kind of done with all this bullshit because we all know what everybody wants, but like, that's a huge difference from going to Silicon Valley and meeting with all the tech billionaires and promising them how you're going to fuck the country over and the working class over in a different way from Republicans. So invest in us, give us more money so that we can win next time. That's the whole plan. That's the plan.
Don't make me chime in on Bernie.
I know, I'm sad. Okay. I think we should move on. Oh, I will just say this was shocking. There was the whole thing about Bidenomics and people weren't feeling it and how dumb the voters were, that they couldn't even feel that the GDP had grown so much and things were so great. And why don't Democrats message better? And the messaging's the problem, and be louder, and voters are too dumb to know when they have it so good. So this article just came out. How Democrats were tricked into believing the economy was strong. This is former U.S. Controller Eugene Ludwig. This is the particularly egregious example he gives. What is perhaps the most widely reported economic indicator is unemployment. Known to experts as the U3, the number misleads in several ways. First, it counts as employed the millions of people who are unwillingly underemployed. That is, people who, for example, work only a few hours each week while searching for a full-time job. Second, it does not take into account many Americans who have been so discouraged that they are no longer trying to get a job. Finally, the prevailing statistic does not account for the meagerness of any individual's income. Thus, you could be homeless on the streets, making an intermittent income and functionally incapable of keeping your family fed, and the government would still count you as employed. I don't believe those who went into this past election taking pride in the unemployment numbers understood that the near record low unemployment figures, the figure was a mere 4.2% in November, counted homeless people doing occasional work as employed. But the implications are powerful. If you filter the statistic to include as unemployed people who can't find anything but part-time work, or who make a poverty wage, roughly $25,000 a year, the percentage is actually 23.7%. In other words, nearly 1 of every 4 workers is functionally unemployed in America today. Hardly something to celebrate. I mean,
yeah,
you're up screaming from the roofs, right?
And still to this day, Democrats are pushing this. We just didn't message to people how good the economy really was. Yeah. And some of these homeless people working 2 jobs would benefit eventually from trickle down economics, is what you're saying. You're closetly saying, this economy would have hit them eventually if they just trusted in us and that we're doing the right thing to grow the economy. Meanwhile, you're doing nothing to control housing costs, which is the number 1 reason of homelessness.
Yep. You're
doing nothing to curb COVID, which is disabling millions and is also another huge factor in homelessness. Yep. So, nobody bought it. And this is where I do believe you've got politicians that sort of believed the economy was good because they're so sheltered from this stuff. And there's so many millions and billions of dollars pumped into the consultant class to go out and tell all these Democratic people, here's the message. The economy's good. We're the good guys. So there's a piece of that where they believe it. But these people at the top running the Democratic ticket, they know all these numbers in and out. So
of course,
shielding them from it is garbage. Your local guy who runs as a Democrat, he gets a consultant fed to him by the Democratic Party because he's not anti-Palestine. I mean, he's not anti-Israel. He's not He's playing ball enough, so they send somebody out here to give him some money, run his campaign, and they convince him the economy's good. You just got to share these things. It's all top-down messaging, and that top-down messaging doesn't come from public views on things. It comes from what the corporate class wants everyone to believe.
Right. Well, and because, I actually really wonder how much they know. Like, okay, you know what? This guy keeps showing up. I am blocking him. Get fucked. Seriously. How do I get this guy out?
Oh, a Son Piker fan?
Yeah.
I don't know. What did he do? Did he say something really atrocious? I'm not even following it. Looks like he's gone. No?
Gone. Yeah. Ban.
Wait a minute. Oh, wait. Let's put his message up. How come Pat never calls Trump a fascist? Have you seen my timeline this fucking month? You fucking idiot.
He's just awful.
You Dem operatives that come and try to stir stuff up. You're so stupid. Your talking points are so fucking dumb.
Yeah. And he was saying stuff. He's with Nick Brana and that whole crowd of
the crowd leading people right to unite with the right.
Yeah.
Like he's that like crowd, that's your guy, and you're saying I'm not calling him a fascist.
Yeah, correct.
Get fucked forever, dude. Get fucked.
He's done. We don't need him here. Okay. We're about to move on, but also just as a reminder, and again, we had Stephen Semler on. Well, we have him on every chance we get, but the last time he was on, or 2 times ago, whatever, it was all these stats, right? Homelessness increased 18%. That is social murder. That is violence to make people homeless. And for kids, it increased 33%. If you judge an economy as good, well, this number of an increase is happening to kids. You are not on my team. You're not a good human being. You're Republican. Like, let's stop pretending that Democrats are not Republican. Right wing, whatever you want to call it. This is not a good society. And the Democrats they're like, well, let's get our good billionaires in there. Yeah. And the new guy who I can't remember his name, but nobody had ever heard of him before, but he already had all the votes, because he's a good fundraiser. That's the only reason that you get all the votes. Yeah. All right. Are we moving on?
Sure. Let's should we have some joy? Do we have joy?
Yeah. Do we have any, I don't think we had any other videos. It's all just so pathetic. Democrats are really gross.
Well, okay. I kind of want to show the Stewart one just because it shows.
I know. I do too. I'm just worried is it gonna go black in the middle of it? Are we just gonna get shut down
for Stewart's podcast? I don't think
no. All right, let's try it. Let's try it because it's good. And
because the important part to see here is Stewart lobs up the
call that to your face. Yeah.
He calls him out to his face, lobs it up as like, you got to show some results, not just messaging. And listen to Hakeem's answer to this.
Where is the Democrats' Project 2025? Is that underway? Everything you're saying feels right to me. The Democrats have to make this point. Where's the infrastructure to do that? And who are the leaders taking charge of that effort? Because when I listened to, I believe his name is Ken Martin. Is that correct? The new DNC chair?
That's right.
He kept saying it's a messaging issue, as though, no, everything's going right. You just don't realize it yet. As opposed to, we've gotten away from New Deal values. Does that make sense to you?
Well, I think there's a few things going on here.
Yeah.
In terms of how we better communicate with the American people, Maya Angelou said it best. People won't remember what you say. They may not even remember what you do, but they will always remember how you make them feel. And I think what we have to do a better job of is making the American people feel that we understand the pain that they've been in economically for a long period of time.
That's the craziest thing. Jon Stewart says, what's the plan? And it's we feel you, we felt you, and we're going to circle back.
He's sales techniquing it. I know the public needs to know that we understand how they feel. And, we felt this way. And we found, No, Stuart just said we want some tangible policy, something that feels, and he's just like, yeah, but the messaging has to connect to people about how they feel is what he's saying. We need like some emotional commercials.
Yeah.
Is what that comes down to.
I mean, it goes on. And at one point, Jeffrey says something like, well, the reason we can't do that is because of Section 5, issue 9 or whatever of the Constitution or the Rules Handbook of Congress, whatever it is. And John Stewart's like, well, I just asked you what the plan is and you're throwing me Section 9. So like, we all know it. Everybody knows it. They're just not playing the part appropriately. And here's what's sad to me, and I believe that Bernie truly feels this way. He at least is playing the part appropriately. But he's the only one. That's it. He's the only one. I mean, I think some people, it seems they are fooled by what's her face, AOC. But I don't think she's convincing at all. So there's one person who's going out talking to working class people. That's it. And who you could say, hey, this is his platform, whatever you want to say. It doesn't even have to be Bernie, whatever. The platform is free public education, healthcare for all, housing for all, no forever wars, Medicare for all, a thriving wage. Like you can list it. It has nothing to do with Republicans. It's not reactive. I don't even need to mention Republicans or Trump, because the thing is, no Democrat can talk about what their policies are without mentioning Republicans, because they actually don't have any ideology apart from we're just going to be a little less bad than those people. And
yeah, and just to bring it to Jeffries, like they're blaming the activists. They're blaming all these groups. We brought this up before, but like Democrats said Jeffries himself is very frustrated at the groups who are trying to stir up a more confrontational opposition to Trump. So he's mad at the people trying to put up a fight while saying we can't put up a fight. We can't do it. So there's sort of a split within the party of like, what the fuck is happening here? Like, I believe this guy's bad in fascism, and it's so obvious all these things that he's doing to hand our government over to, Elon and corporations, and they're stripping. They want to get rid of OSHA. They want to give, which is worker protections. Like they want to get rid of all these things. It's so obvious. And you got this guy saying, they're frustrated activists. We're frustrated at those guys, and then you got Schumer. Schumer has a meeting with all these activists and protesters, and they're like, we just realized this guy has no plan. And he basically admitted we have no plan. We had no resistance plan for how to stop any of this stuff. And meanwhile, every day I get 20 fucking emails from people in the Democratic Party saying my $5 could stop fascism.
Yeah.
But what's your fucking plan? You have nothing. Nothing.
You wouldn't even have to mention Trump or anything. Again, like if you're on the left, you have an ideology that's independent of talking. I mean, yes, of course, you point out their corruption and all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't matter who you're fighting against because you know what you're fighting for. You have an affirmative project. This is what we need. This is what healthy societies do. These are our values. This is what we should all fight for. But there's none of that. They really don't care. It's so clear. All they do is fundraising, and their definition of success is not actually gaining seats. They still make money because of all the fundraising. So it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And the public, nobody, including Republicans, wants to cut $880 billion from Medicare.
Yeah.
That is so unpopular. That should be front and center of this whole campaign of why we can't fund your budget, because your budget cuts are immoral. Tell your own voters that you're going to stop funding Medicare.
Yeah.
Tell them, let them know.
Like, in other countries, you can go through graduate school for free or close to free because, again, like infrastructure and
you
healthcare,
can do it here once upon a time too.
Yeah, it's a return on investment. You are investing it. We have, you need more doctors, you need teachers, you need schools, you need high-speed rail. You need bridges that aren't going to fall apart. You need 2 air traffic controllers, 2 pilots. I know it's going to cost you a little extra, but that way when the pilot has a heart attack or his brain's melting because he's been infected with COVID 5 times because Delta got rid of the like, then somebody else is there to take over, right? Like,
yeah.
But all of that stuff is stripped because it's like the just-in-time manufacturing where there should be no waste. But like, you need waste. You need to have some extra masks that, yeah, okay, you're going to throw them away at the end of the year because whatever, masks, those don't expire. But like the tests that they had been hoarding them and they send us expired tests. Make new tests for the new strains.
Yeah, not to get COVID in here too much, but I was offended. Somebody sent me this earlier this week about government auctions for masks. Like the government is auctioning off caseloads of masks and they're selling them. And the good news is you can get them cheap. If you're an organization looking to distribute masks, you can buy them cheap from the government, but the government spent all this money and didn't try to distribute these masks. And we're on our outbreak here. They're going to need those fucking masks.
Yep. And then they'll come to
instead,
people like,
it's just
Beltran.
Yeah, it'll be another contract for some new masks, in the next time, but we'll be out of them and it'll be shortage. And it's
the
just
idea
so
that
fucking
efficiency,
disgusting.
That first of all, that a government should be run like a business and that being efficient, like I wouldn't want our government being run even by the best businesses, but most of the yahoos who are here have run their businesses into the ground or have been bankruptcies or bailed out by the government over and over, or have no bid contracts, like the height of corruption. But government should never be run, even the way the best businesses might be run, whatever those are. But also, like, that's the efficiency isn't only about money. It's about what keeps people up and running and happy and thriving and creating art and spending time with their children and their communities. And like, there's just no thought about quality of life at all.
Yeah, and the basic quality of life with the fire department is your city doesn't burn down, your house doesn't burn down. Do you want the fire department to be making money? No, it's a good thing that we don't have these things happening to people. So it's the same thing with your mail. Do you want mail? You want your post office to be charging $2 more for your letter because they'll make a profit. They will make a profit.
Yep. Well, no, what's going to happen is it'll be completely starved, gutted, and then it will all just be privatized. It will all be UPS and FedEx.
Exactly.
That's the whole
and
deal.
That's DOGE in a nutshell.
It's Republicans. Everything's
Republicans
privatized.
And the Democrats.
It's neoliberalism. Yeah, and Democrats for sure. Reflect this on cheers and thank you. Amazing. And no, sorry. Thank you. I'm not trying to spread fake news. I used masks as an example. It was actually the tests, but the masks, because they have so, like denigrated them, made them like this disgusting scarlet letter.
The red scarlet letter,
yeah. That I don't know what's going to happen, but like, here in LA, when there were all these fires, the city did not have masks to protect the firefighters or the communities who were breathing in toxic fumes.
This is where leftist community organizing, direct action stuff. This is such a clear case of we are handling our own safety. The government isn't going to do it. The government looked to the left to help bail out LA.
Yeah.
Because they weren't prepared to. And they didn't do it.
They didn't have masks. They didn't have water. They didn't have medicine at the evacuation centers. There were people who were showing up on street corners and grilling and making food for people. It was all community organizing. It was all mutual aid. The government did almost nothing. And the same thing happened in North Carolina.
And with the LA, for example, disaster capitalism, these guys they get in there, they push an agenda, they find a way to get all their buddies rich. But like, for example, Trump releasing all this water. And he's like, this, they put it out to the public or to the right-wing people. And this is where listening to right-wing radio is paying off big time.
It's good. Know your enemy.
Right. But
They're to know how,
but they're spinning it like, okay, these crazy libs and protecting the smelt in California is why the water wasn't released. So they're making the connection to like environmental protections are why LA burned, right? That's the undertone of all this is like, so we need to strip some of these environmental protections, which are just stupid. They're holding our economy back. It's why your eggs are $24. It's environmental shit, you know. That's kind of that's what the Trump people are going to use this stuff for. And the Democrats are intentionally feckless. So that message is going to resonate with half the fucking country.
Well, I mean,
until they're broke. We're going
to get rid of regulations or make it easier to build so that we have, you can get your, $25,000, $50,000 credit, your tax credit. Just a reminder, like and subscribe, smash that notification bell.
Thank you. Leave a comment. Pat's right is my favorite comment, but you can leave whatever you want.
Whatever. All right, let's spin the wheel before we get on to more heartbreak. There we go. I mean, sorry, unless you have something else to say.
No. Let's go.
Yeah, baby.
Do you have another timeline comes?
We do.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay.
We do.
I've been sent this harrowing footage of these Twister-like ice creams being made. Wait till you see this. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like these machines need a holiday. Like look at the way they're cutting the ice creams. They're all over the place. These machines have completely given up on their job. Now you think this is bad. Wait till you see the stick machine. Look what the stick machine is doing. Look at the inaccuracy. Who designed this stick machine? Look at the absolute state of them. There isn't even an ice cream on that one. I feel like the stick machine is like an analogy for how the government treats the common man. There they are, fucking us, without even the consideration of an accurately placed stick. Follow me, I'm delicious.
That was pretty funny. That upsets my OCD.
Oh, so much. And my graduate school is industrial design, which is manufacturing shit. So some of it is like that whole process, and seeing those sticks just fucking miss.
Oh,
what in the world?
Yeah. Mess up that nice spiral. All right, here we go. So Trump, came in and made sure there was a ceasefire to show everybody that obviously the most powerful person in the world can throw his weight around and get whatever he wants when he wants it, especially when the U.S. Is the one funding, arming, and providing diplomatic cover for Israel in its genocide. So that started. Israel, of course, has broken the ceasefire countless times. I think they've killed over 100 people now in Gaza. Also, of course, went right to the West Bank and started demolishing private homes and olive trees and all. They're just turning their sights on. It's the whole Lebensraum, right? It is the greater Israel expansion project. But so Trump says, we're going to take over Gaza. The U.S. is going to own it. It's a beautiful beachfront property. It was an interesting, when he first announced it, when he was standing next to Bibi, I actually, what did you, all right, why don't you watch it? Because it's only a minute, but the response, Bibi's eyes, it was interesting to me. I wonder if he knew that this is what was going to happen. I'm gonna find it.
Oh. Well, I thought.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna comment on it, but
go ahead. You want to comment first?
I think it was telling to see Bibi have to sit there and Trump describe how destroyed Palestine was, how it was absolutely flattened, which is like a reality they've ignored, and Bibi himself and the U.S. government has pretended wasn't true.
Yeah.
So hearing that from Trump, kind of cut into both their messages. And I don't know what the effect of it is, because at the end of the day, the message is, well, and Trump is like, well, we're just going to redevelop that whole area. My buddies are all going to get rich.
Yeah.
Bibi, you can keep going, go somewhere else. We'll just put the Palestinians in another country and build some houses. My buddies will get rich off of that too.
Right. But also,
that's
it
out
won't
in the
belong
public.
to Israel. It won't belong to Israel. Yeah. It won't belong to Israel, which is Israel's grand plan. And also, it's a really dangerous place. It's all just murder, death, and destruction. Like, it's an act of God, not the guy sitting right here to my right. But anyway, okay, let's just.
It's unlivable. As I sit to the guy next to me who told you they're the most moral army in the world.
Right.
Who targets
gave all the
every
weapons
attack.
to do it. Yeah. Okay. So here
he is.
Peter? Would Palestinians have the right to return to Gaza if they left while the rebuilding was happening?
It would be my hope that we could do something really nice, really good, where they wouldn't want to return. Why would they want to return? The place has been hell. It's been one of the meanest, toughest places on earth. And right now, I've seen every picture from every angle, better than if I were there. And nobody can live there. You can't live there. So if we can build them through massive amounts of money supplied by other people, very rich nations, and they're willing to supply it. If we can build something for them in one of the countries, and it could be Jordan, it could be Egypt, it could be other countries, and you could build 4 or 5 or 6 areas. It doesn't have to be one area, but you take certain areas and you build really good quality housing, like a beautiful town, like someplace where they can live and not die, because Gaza is a guarantee that they're going to end up dying. The same thing's going to happen again. It's happened over and over again, and it's going to happen again as sure as you're standing there, Peter. So I hope that we could do something where they wouldn't want to go back. Who would want to go back? They've experienced nothing but death and destruction.
It reminds me of the thing, Katie Halper does this a lot on the show, where she'll say, who said it, Trump or Noam Chomsky? And they're saying the exact same truth, but Chomsky's condemning it, and Trump's saying it like, yeah, who'd want to go back there? It's all murder and disgust. Yeah.
And if Jordan and Egypt don't let us build our timeshares in their country, we're going to cut off some aid to them. If they don't take
the Palestinians. They want them, right? But now they're saying they won't. They just released statements today.
Yeah.
So this was a few days ago. This is just really quick, but I thought this was an interesting moment. Trump and Bibi about to sit down together. Did everybody see that? He's standing behind Bibi and pushes his chair in. This is a man who wouldn't even hold his umbrella over his wife when it was pouring or open the door for her. He's standing behind Bibi and pushes his chair in. I don't know if that was just like an interesting moment.
It shows you the power structure. I mean, that along with Elon Musk giving addressing the nation from the Oval Office, like what?
Yeah. I mean,
I think right-wing radio is working so hard to counter this stuff because it's so bad to, like, a lot of their own
the optics are kind of crazy.
Are really like, what the fuck is happening here?
Yeah.
Like, MAGA people didn't want us involved in this war over there.
Yeah.
And they're like 50-50 on Palestine, Israel, but they don't want us involved in these wars. And
yeah. So at this point, the plan, the way it's discussed in US media is so horrifying because, they talk about like, was this CNN, a redevelopment plan? Trump says Palestinians would not have a right to return to Gaza under his redevelopment plan. And, so here's also where like the media, that's a disgusting way to talk about ethnic cleansing, which of course is a crime against humanity and it's, illegal. But there are a lot of Democrats, liberal, adjacent, whatever, corporate media who are like, this is disgusting. Even like Josh Shapiro, right? He's vying for 2028 against Fetterman and Newsom, who's like, he's a big Zionist. He called the protesters basically like terrorists, Hamas sympathizers, whatever, all the horrible things. But because he's playing his part of opposition, disgusting to talk about ethnic cleansing. But what? It wasn't disgusting to bomb the hell out of Palestinians and destroy everything in Gaza? Like, genocide, that wasn't illegal? Like, I don't know. I feel like we're in wackadoo land where this is disgusting. Of course, we shouldn't talk about this. Of course, it shouldn't happen. I don't think it will happen, but it's horrible. But like, where was the outrage when we were seeing children's faces being blown off or shredded legs as they're pinned to a building, or a pregnant woman just this week killed? And do you know that the IDF, they put out, they were wearing T-shirts. This was from a few years ago, because this is a common practice, because they believe that Palestinians are evil from birth. They are terrorists from birth. 1 shot, 2 kills when they kill a pregnant woman. So this article is from 2009. This isn't new, right? But this just happened this week. Again, a pregnant woman walking, presenting absolutely no threat during a ceasefire. And nobody is, go ahead, sorry.
Well, no, I'm just back to Shapiro, that just angers me so much, because obviously he was almost the vice president, right? Mm-hmm. If it were not for his personal history, they wanted him to be the vice president.
Right.
The Democrats did.
Yeah.
And here is Trump, for all his evils in the world, at least acknowledging the realities on the ground. And you're Josh Shapiro saying you're attacking him while not acknowledging, like, you're pretending to support the Palestinians now, while not acknowledging any of the mass devastation, all of which happened under Democrats. All of it, every single drop of it, except for the 100, and it's still happening. But Democratic Party owns all of that.
The fact that it's unlivable now is because
it's unlivable, and you're not bringing that part of it up. Like, you should be, if that's not true, you should be saying, Trump, why are you saying it's unlivable? Right. Because we have the most moral army in the world. Yeah,
and humanitarian aid, and
so, but you're not doing that. You're just doing politics here.
Right. And Trump, several times now, for a very long time, it was always 2.2 or 2.3 million people living in Gaza. Trump has several times now over the last week said, we've got to relocate this 1.7 million or 1.8 million, because he knows what we all know, what the Lancet wrote about probably 8 months ago, but that the death toll is probably much closer to $300,000, 300,000 people. The official death toll in Gaza has been updated to 61,709, including 17,881 children, at least 111,588 wounded. But that is only because those are the people who have been identified. There are still tens of thousands of people.
Yeah. As we've seen,
yeah,
they're pulling up, beheaded people and just atrocious stuff. And that's why they kept the reporters out the whole time.
Yeah.
That's why the public got their first acknowledgement of the tragedy there from Trump and not our fucking press.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So that, the death toll is slowly being updated. Since the ceasefire, at least 110 Palestinians have been killed by Israel in Gaza since the ceasefire. And all this is happening. Hamas has done nothing. I mean, just like with Lebanon, just like with Iran, right? Like, we keep funding and arming these horrific assassinations, murder, slaughters the slaughter of civilians. And it's like, of course, an incitement for the country that's being targeted, or whose civilians or leaders of state are being targeted in their countries. And it's like the whole world is counting on the restraint of Iran, of the Palestinians, of the Lebanese, right? Because the ceasefires have been broken now by Israel repeatedly, both in Gaza and in Lebanon, and there's been no response.
The response from Trump is that he doesn't trust Hamas to hold their end of the deal. So they're already, he's setting this whole thing up to just perpetuate more of this, keep it going.
But even so, this is the ceasefire violations. This is being reported by a Hamas Gaza media outfit. Agreed upon were 12,000 aid trucks, but only 8,500 were allowed to enter. 50 fuel trucks a day, only 15 have been coming in a day. 60,000 mobile houses, no mobile houses. 200,000 tents, and only 20,000 tents. So there've been, and Hamas had a list of like 22 separate violations, including targeted killing, assassinations, some of these, 22. And even in the New York Times, you have to read all the way down to the bottom, they have also signed on to say Israel has had these violations and Hamas has not violated the ceasefire, even in the New York Times.
Yeah, I mean, and food trucks is obviously the big one, but you can't discount housing there when you're looking at the plans called for housing, basically 260,000 housing units between houses and tents. And they have 20,000. So that's 240,000 houses not built. And that between the tents and the houses, they're designed to have like 8 to 10 people. So you're talking about 1 million people unhoused among rubble that is toxic.
While we're still getting fired on.
While they're getting bombed. So what has changed? Like this.
Yeah. They're making it unlivable. That's, again, bipartisan project so that this, imperial outpost in the Middle East can take over. That is the hope. We have seen, it's just so amazing to see how the US media deals with all of this. We have seen, they call them prisoners, but they're hostages, Palestinian hostages. Some of them are as young as 7, but teens and, all the way up until old age, doctors, women, men, taken from their homes, not charged with anything. So there's almost 10,000, what Israel is considering their hostages. There were 220 taken total, I think. Yeah. There's almost 10,000 Palestinian hostages. When the hostages are released on these negotiated days, the Palestinians are told, you cannot celebrate. We don't want to hear any noise. There can be no gathering to welcome your family member home. The people who are being released are telling stories, some of which we've seen on tape, has been verified also by IDF soldiers or the prison guards or the doctors at these torture camps have been raped to death or just raped and tortured. When they are released, it is not uncommon for them to be severely malnourished, to have scabies, all sorts of like skin disease and irritations. They have had to have appendages removed, amputated, because they've been kept in tight bound handcuffs or foot cuffs, ankle cuffs for months on end. They are blindfolded, tortured. Every single Israeli hostage who has been released up until the last 3 this past weekend has looked pretty healthy.
And they're again, using the three are like the poster children for, holy shit, never again. This is
it's like Holocaust. Auschwitz all over again. It's because just this past weekend there were 3 who were released who looked malnourished. But like if they're being kept in Gaza and Israel controls the food and the water and the electricity going into Gaza, and they're not allowing hostages.
And bombing their own hostages.
And bombing their own hostages. And by the way, like one of them, I mean, it's just horrific. And, I'm not trying to make this a Olympics of suffering or torture or anything. I don't want any civilians ever being treated this way.
But the media has to report on it honestly. And they're framing this all as the Holocaust Part 2 for 3 people versus thousands.
And one of the men who was released, his wife and 2 kids, I think, were killed on October 7th. But, from the very beginning, there were independent journalists on the ground who were reporting that they were sure it was the Hannibal Directive that had been used. That has continued to grow and be acknowledged until just yesterday. Even Yoav Gallant said, yeah, we used it. But they were killing their own people. There was no way that all those cars and trucks at the Nova Festival would be bombed out from above with what Hamas weapons were available, right? So they knew that. So a lot of Israeli deaths were likely caused by the IDF and the Hannibal Directive. But so the man who was released, who's now been a hostage for 500 days, whose wife and 2 children were killed, of course he doesn't look well. It's horrible. But there are 220 of them and 10,000 Palestinians. And there's just no talk about the Palestinians ever. And all we've been hearing is now how horrible it is. And that probably because they were treated so badly that now Israel doesn't have to respect the ceasefire anymore, which it has not been respecting even from the beginning.
And that's the whole game. That's the whole Hasbara. That's the reason our media has played along, and all the people at CNN and MSNBC and leftist media, right wing too. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are dead because you wouldn't reflect on this honestly. If you told the public any of these truths, if you made a complicated case and didn't just parrot the shit that Israel wanted the public to know, you could have saved hundreds of thousands of lives.
Yep.
So I don't know. Where do we go from there? The media is going to be just his own. They're going to back every war we want forever.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And they're still saying, this
Biden.
Is how they're framing it still in the New York Times, even though in this article at the bottom, they do admit that Hamas has not broken the ceasefire, but that Hamas has indefinitely postponed the release of Israeli hostages who were set to be freed this weekend, which is a new challenge to an already fragile ceasefire. Even in Israel, and the IDF has said, the Israeli army and security establishment confirm that so far Hamas has not violated the ceasefire deal. So, it's like in crazy world, right? Because again, I feel like the exhaustion is part of the strategy, is just keep lying and making it harder and harder, and then profiling 1 or 2 Israeli hostages and not talking about the hundreds of thousands.
Of course. And that's where Trump steps in, tells a little truth, says this whole fucking place is unlivable. And you're like, oh, I got to have some empathy. What do we do for these guys? And that's enough to get some people over the edge to well, there's no good solution. It's all complicated. So let's just let Trump build some fucking towers and his buddies in Egypt and
everybody can get rich.
And yeah. And then, if we want to go after these countries, the next thing is, well, now we're going to attack these countries not willing to put up the Palestinians. And, we're going to not necessarily attack, but we're going to deny U.S. aid money. We're going to put sanctions on them. We're going to, you're not a true ally. These are your brown people, and you're not going to take your own brown people.
Well, that is where, so first of all, that, we talked about this before, but that's something that you hear a lot of people say, why didn't the neighboring countries take in Palestinians, right? But that same repulsive line of argument was used against Jews, about Jews, by Nazis. Like, why aren't the Europe? Why isn't the UK? Why isn't England and America taking in Jews?
And all of the Nazi shit started with a relocation project. Like, it wasn't like, let's just kill all the Jews. Oh, so we'll stop killing the Jews if we can move them. It's like, no, we want to move the Jews, and then you find reasons to kill them, which is what happened. So,
which is why Nazis and Zionists worked hand in hand, which is, if more US Jews understood that that's what happened, I think there would be a very different view about what it is to be a Zionist and what Israel actually stands for. I think too many people don't understand what the Zionist project really was. But yeah, so the relocation, Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and this is where, the US proxy war with Russia, which has slaughtered, 500,000 Ukrainians, people are being kidnapped off the streets, is basically now going to end in, Zelensky's already saying, like, I will give up some land. It's an unpopular war in Ukraine. This all could have ended before it even began. But it was done primarily, I think, financially, right? Because of the energy, the money, the pipeline, right? You got to get rid of that. But also because if you keep Russia busy fighting a war here, then it has less ability to help Iran. It has less ability to help China. Like, there's all this. It's like a bunch of nerds.
It's all tied into
risk,
BRICS
right?
and future hegemony.
But it backfired because BRICS is actually growing and more countries are signing on. So what you were saying before about like, oh, now the US is going to try to, put sanctions against some of these countries, Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia. I don't know if they would even try. But like they don't only have to deal with the US dollar now. So there is strength from being able to join BRICS and have another currency because they have more power. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia could have been standing up to the US for years, which they do when they want to. So like, I'm not taking away culpability, but none of these Arab nations is going to stand by and let the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians happen. So that's going to be interesting.
No, and where it hits us personally in the US, aside from the tragic consequences to Palestinians, is we're in such global decline now. It's unbelievable. And for Trump to be out there pissing off all our allies, driving people into BRICS, the US dollar is going to be so useless in 5 years. It's like, so of course they're preparing the public for cutting all the social safety net because we're going to have a fucking terrible economy. And they want that to go because that preserves the elite status and the people that have money already. They're going to be the last people affected by all this stuff happening now. So Trump is the perfect harbinger of all this stuff. Well, I don't know, that's the wrong word, but he's the perfect guy to bring this all in because he can shield it with racism and all this other stuff for a while.
But it's the one, God, even Marco Rubio said something about multipolar, like a new multipolar world that we're going to have to get used to. And, I know it's going to come with some pain, but I think it is an important step on the path towards some kind of justice. I hope. I don't know. All right. It's 7:05. There were so many videos this week. We didn't even talk about the Super Bowl. But
I don't care about the Super Bowl.
I don't really care about this. I don't care about the Super Bowl. But I thought, there was a dancer, and again, we were talking about it before, but like to be a dancer is hard work and you almost never get a break. And if you get a break, and you're called up to dance backup for Kendrick Lamar at the Super Bowl halftime show. That's huge. And to use your moment to hold up a Palestinian, like a Palestinian Sudan solidarity flag, run around while you're being chased by all the security and arrested, because that's a moment that might bring some focus to what's happening. I mean, to me, that's so beautiful when we have, half of the people in power in our country are like, well, we're just going to take it to the courts and we can't, like, they're not going to fight anything, right? Right. Why won't you let us in the door, Mr. Band-Aid neck, whatever? Like, I was really impressed that he did that. There's a bunch of students at Bowdoin College who, in solidarity with one of their fellow students who was killed during this war in Gaza, a Palestinian student, they stormed one of the lecture halls, took over a building. They know what fate is probably going to meet them. They see how students are being treated, that some of them will probably be deported, that some of them will have incurred all of the student debt only not to get a degree, right? Like, they are actually fighting really hard for something that they believe in and that we all need to do, that we all do. But like, it is amazing how few people who have a voice are not using that voice to bring attention, because what's happening in Gaza, as we all know, is going to come back here. That's the boomerang effect. Like, that's what happens. It's going to come back. So even if you don't care, even if your humanity doesn't care about a genocide happening to other people, just know that all of those tactics, the stifling of free speech, the military police, the data mining, the surveillance, that's all coming for us. So, the people who speak up are heroes. Yeah.
And that's where we can connect to the libs, because they're not going to be personally affected by a lot of stuff, but eventually they will. Our economic policy in the world is something that is going to hit everybody. So
that's a long way of saying, yeah, go ahead.
Well, and, but to your point, kudos to somebody right now who it's such an unknown what consequences you could face for such an action with the unified government being against protesters and the Democrats handing all this power to Trump with cop cities and whatnot to regulate protest. So it's an especially bold moment, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, same. You guys are all awesome. Good to be back. We'll be back on Sunday. I need another glass of wine. Keep punching up. We'll see you soon.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Stand for something to fall for anything. I'm sick, but it's game time. Hey, the world's on fire, we don't own the water, y'all. It may tire for a couple dollars, y'all. New era usher, but white supremacy is still in charge. Talking colonizing Gaza from the White House lawn. But the people mobbing, and we ain't backing off. Finally see the oligarchy and men that control us all. Tax breaks for the elite, and then they taxing y'all, killing Palestinian kids, and we getting hit with the cost. Why the fuck you think you can't afford the rent in your building, and you can't afford groceries and debt in your feelings, and you know how the West thinks. It's all about the West Banks. Call a ceasefire, then start annexing the West Bank. How you think Israel gets money for the best tanks, and Netanyahu loves Trump? He's like, yeah, thanks. That's your money, and yes, it's all connected, and they controlling your feed. The information that they censor, blocking hashtags. Can't say free Palestine. This 2 weeks in, think where we'll be around July. But you know us Americans, out of sight, out of mind, and they know it too. That's why they running game on our lives. But they got me fucked up. They got me fucked up. They got me fucked up. And Elon, we know exactly exactly what that was, bruh. They got us fucked up. They got us fucked up. They got us fucked up. In Elon, we know exactly what that was, bruh. You can bomb my mosque, but you can't bomb faith. You can't kill people, resistance grows in the wake. And while our president sends billions to Israel safes, ethnic cleansing's never gonna make Israelis feel safe. More blood, more weapons, more money, more oppression, more hate, more fear, more walls, and more settlements. The colonizer just spoke to us at the White House. What we said was gonna happen is happening right now. Nah, they marching home. Yeah, that's resilience. Millions celebrating like the world was walking with them. You in the palm of God, no man will ever catch you flinching. They can never burn the olive tree that lives within them. The next 4 years, it's time to ride. Fuck ICE, free Congo, Sudan and Palestine. If you still haven't said shit about the genocide, know your grandkids one day are gonna ask you why. They got me fucked up. They got me fucked